Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Fernandez. I am the Maternal Infant Health Project Manager at Wayside Recovery Center. You are joining us today for our Maternal and Infant Health Series with Ms. Kindra McGee. Today, we are talking about self-care. Before I introduce Kindra, well, actually, Kindra is going to be introducing herself to you today. I would love for you, I see so many people have already put their name, role in the chat and where they are joining us from. I just really would just like to share a couple of highlights on why that is important. One of the things that we have learned from our SOAR 2 grant that we've received from the Minnesota Department of Human Services and SAMHSA, it's a state opioid response 2 grant that we have received. And at Wayside, we do the women's wellness, and we also do the maternal infant health series. And with that, we are really looking for speakers in community, in diverse roles, serving diverse populations. And this collaboration has really taken off in the last year. And I hope you're able to see that in the diversity of our speakers. I noticed that we have a medical student that is joining us today. We've had many medical students, a behavior specialist, social workers, across the gamut. We definitely want to hear from our medical doctors, our OBs, our nurse practitioners, and midwives, but please think about your colleagues who may be working in the area of substance use disorder, as well as maternal health, and that they have something to add to this conversation. Maybe you've attended a conference and heard a dynamic speaker. At Wayside, we are the education and training department, and we do our best to not only provide trainings, but also attend trainings. So I just hope that you will continue to join us here, but also continue that networking that we are doing with one another to make sure that we're able to bring forth dynamic speakers, but also educators who can help us locally and regionally in our practice. And again, we appreciate also the fact that we are a national program, that we, with our most recent conference, we had over 17 cities around our country attend, and we often have had Puerto Rico, and I believe we've had Canada participate as well. So we've had even North America participate. So we are focusing this month on maternal mental health. And if you were not with us yesterday with Dr. Williams, it was a dynamic part 1. She raised so many new concepts, ideas, strategies, and information with us. And she will be hosting a part 2 that will happen in August. So I hope you will be able to join us then, as well as Teresa Fortune will be the next speaker next week, and she'll be sharing her personal story regarding that 4th trimester and postpartum. So I hope that you will join us there. And as always, we will have all of this information on our website page under education and training and maternal health. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Ms. Kindra McGee, who will be speaking with us today about the importance of self-care. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have officially crossed the throne of 12 p.m. So I want to say good afternoon to everyone who is joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. And I want to say thank you to Nicole for having me on today. As she said, my name is Kindra McGee. I am the program manager at a program called Diva Moms in St. Paul, which is connected with Minnesota Community Care as well as Healthy Black Pregnancies. I am one that is efficient about time. I am very mindful of that, and I do not want to waste anyone's time that has come to join us on today. And so with that, I'm going to begin sharing my screen, and I want to say thank you for joining us again. So today we're going to talk about self-care isn't selfish. It's not being selfish. Too often we as women, men can focus on men when they have their opportunity to talk about it because they need self-care as well. I'm not biased or anything of that nature, but they have their platform and their time and place for that conversation. But today we're going to focus on the women. Again, I am a community health worker as well as a perinatal educator, and I enjoy and actually love what I do. This is our agenda for this afternoon. It is very straight to the point. And these are the 4 points that we'll talk about on today. It's self-care defined, say yes to self-care, no guilty zone or guilt-free zone, whichever one you prefer. And then just to touch on a few of the types of ways that you can do self-care or that your clients can do self-care. So as Ms. Nicole had mentioned, I do like to give a briefer of who I am, a small introduction of myself. I am proud hometown kid from Little Rock, Arkansas. I love my city. I have been married for 24 years. That's a consistent marriage, no breakups or anything in between. And I'm very grateful for that. We have 3 kids and 5 grandkids. And just some disclaimers, you will see the Minions in here. So if you're not a fan of the Minions, I'm sorry. But there's a few things that I absolutely love that I just wanted to share just so that you know who you're working with today. I love the Clark sisters, have listened to them since I was a little kid. No, I can't do any of the runs that they do, but they are fabulous. I love the Minions because they tickle me to my core. I absolutely love Double Dutch. Have been jumping it since I was 5 years old. At least that's as far as I can remember. I have to have my quiet time with the Lord. You believe what you believe, and that's who I put my trust and my faith in, is the Lord, because he's done so much for me. I enjoy singing. No, I'm not going to sing today. Sewing is a passion of mine that I had developed when I was in high school. And as I've gotten older, I've just began making little quilts. So that's something that I enjoy doing. Outside of today, this is I had to do my own hair day, but I enjoy changing my hair. And I enjoy a good belly laugh. And when I say a good belly laugh, that's that laugh that have your cheeks hurting, that has your stomach hurting. And I'm just real. I'll laugh at me, you, and anybody else. But I will make sure you're okay if you fall. I just want you to know that. But one of my favorite quotes and one of the things that I live by is to treat people the way I want to be treated. That is something that my mother instilled in her children. She had 3 of them, 3 living children. And so that's one of the things that she taught us. We just recently celebrated her 70th birthday, if she were still living. So on the 2nd of July. And so I'm grateful to have a mother that has instilled some things left some things for her children to live by. My favorite scripture, I love the Bible, but my favorite scripture is trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him and he shall direct thy path. That is how I got to where I am today, is by him leading and guiding me in this pathway. So just a few tidbits to know about me. And so we're going to move on into our self-care. Again, I said I love the Minions. They just tickle me. So work with me and we'll get through this. Self-care defined. What is self-care? I use these 2 specific things for a reason. The Minion, just simply, I feel like I'm already tired tomorrow. A lot of times we wake up on one day and we just don't have it in us. But that's because we're working on a cup that's half empty. There are often times where people have said, oh, my cup's half empty or my cup's half full. Well, in this day and time, we're working off of half empty cups. And so I hope that in this, that you would gather from this some tips for yourself, or even some tips to share. And if perhaps something steps on your toe or somebody else's toe, you know what? We want to put it in that jar and use it for later. So self-care simply defined. Self-care is a noun. The practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. That means that you're putting something into yourself. We can have that cup half full, but if we don't have anything to go in it, we're running low, and it's only going to get lower and lower. It's the practice of taking an active role. You have to do something in protecting one's own well-being, happiness, and particularly during periods of stress. I added at all times. In this life, at all times, we have to actively, if you haven't already been doing, but you have to actively protect yourself, protect your well-being, and protect your happiness. We love everybody and we appreciate everybody that's around us, but sometimes there are what I call people that have a leech mentality, and they just come to suck the life out of you, which is why our cups are half full. And so when you connect yourself with somebody that can actually pour into you, that's a connection that you want. So I looked at the University of Washington, and they gave a brief summary of what they believe to be self-care. It says, in essence, it's doing something that helps your body, mind, or soul feel good. Self-care is the practice of individuals maintaining their health through good lifestyle and healthy choices. In short, self-care isn't a luxury, it's an essential part of a healthy lifestyle. That means that it is vitally important, just like having blood pumping through your veins. It is that important to have self-care, some form of self-care in your life. And then for me, taking the necessary measures to ensure that you are well, putting yourself first. This is my story, my mother's story, I should say. I watched my mother, and this is why self-care is a passion for me. I watched my mother as I was growing up constantly do something for someone else. And the only time she ever got a reprieve was when we went down south to visit relatives. That meant that she didn't have to be concerned about children. She didn't need to have to be concerned about anything else that was going on other than the other people that were around her. But it's too often that we as women forget to take care of ourselves and to pour back into ourselves. And then I don't want to forget this last part, and not care about what other people think. We care too much about what somebody else is thinking. And I can go a lot further with that one, but I will not. I will bow out on that comment. The divisions of self-care. And if I'm moving too fast, Nicole, let me know, and I'll slow it down. But there's 5 divisions of self-care. There's the emotional, mental, physical, social, and spiritual. The emotional, the ability to deal with emotions like anxiety, sadness, or anger, are key to your overall health. Those are not the only emotions that we deal with. Whatever the emotion is, it's vitally important that we deal with them, that we actually take time out for ourselves and allow ourselves. Grief is one of the things that a lot of people are dealing with, but not dealing with. And so it's vitally important that we take time to actually go through the process of grief, to deal with the reason why we're angry. Is it important? Is it not important? Is it something that we can just let it roll off our back? Or is it something that we really need to actually deal with? So being mindful of our emotions. The mental side. Keeping your mind sharp through mental activities and practicing self-acceptance, A lot of people have an issue with accepting themselves and believing in themselves, and also having self-compassion. We forget that we can show compassion for someone else, but what about you? When do you show compassion towards yourself? When do you show compassion towards or acceptance towards yourself? I know weight is one of the is a thing that a lot of people deal with. And your weight can go up, it can go down. And I just chose that one because I'm a thick girl and I'm very confident in my thickness. So that's just, I probably should have put that on there too. I love myself. But I weight, it can be, you can say, one person can say that, oh, I'm too small, but you still have to accept yourself in that. Or someone can say, oh, I'm too heavy. But wherever you are, you still have to accept yourself in that, as long as you're healthy. I don't have any health issues other than I sprained the ankle a year or two ago, and that caused a limp. But that wasn't something that I did on purpose. But we can be really hard on ourselves when it comes to acceptance and compassion. So be mindful of that, and we'll touch more on that in a little bit. The physical portion, monitoring your overall health. Like I said, I'm a healthy thick girl, but I still go to my doctor every year to do whatever physical that I need to do, and that's including my PAP. That's including your exam. There's not enough African American women doing breast exams, and that's a whole nother topic. But we as women need to do more breast exams. And there's more than one way to actually do the exam beyond the mammogram and the old-fashioned way. If you look out there, there's more ways to do breast exams. Your social, spending time with people you love. Spending time, that's another investment in yourself. Spending time with your people that actually do love and care about you. Now, today you got to be a little cautious, because some people that say that they love you, they don't really love you. They just want something from you. So be mindful of that too. Use discernment in accepting new friends. It's good to build them, but you gotta be just a bit careful. But you're spiritual. I don't care if you're an atheist, you believe in something. You believe, even if it's just believing in yourself. Spirituality is the belief that there is something deeper beyond, I'm gonna say deeper as far as greater than yourself, beyond the physical world. There's something or someone greater than you. That's part of self-care. These are the different divisions of it. And we'll dig a little bit deeper into them and break them down just a little bit further in another section. But I did want to share that with you. And we are moving to our second portion, which says, say yes to self-care. Now, this is that portion where I mentioned we need something or someone to be pouring into us. This is just some ice cubes or something that's already, it was in my imagination, it was an image of that half empty with something being poured into it. So just go with my imagination. Saying yes to self-care isn't selfish, it's replenishing. We have to say yes. In the past 4 or 5 years, we have seen people burn out in every arena of work. Every arena of work, it doesn't matter if it's construction, it doesn't matter if it's in the medical field, but especially in the medical field, we're dealing with a lot of burnout. We've got doctors that are simply packing up and saying, I quit. We've got doctors that are saying, you know what, I could have worked 5 more years until my retirement, but I think I'm going to pass. I'm going to go ahead and retire early. I know 2 providers that have retired early just this year. But that's because of burnout. The providers they're tired, but not just the providers, but those that are working the front desk, those that are on the front line. We had all of that stuff about frontline workers. There's so much burnout. And I'm talking about medical side because that's the area in which I'm in. It has really taking a toll on people's lives. And in this arena, and we as women or as individuals, we have to be mindful of burnout. It's a form of exhaustion caused by constantly feeling swamped. Been there, done that. If we all be honest, everybody could raise their hand at some point in time. But it's a result of excessive and prolonged emotional, physical, and mental stress. Stuff has built up. I tell my husband, my warning sign for him when I'm getting stressed out or going into burnout is that I feel like a volcano is about to erupt. And that's because I've constantly said, yes, 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 yes. Okay, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. But at some point in time, and I learned this lesson myself, I had to take a pause. In that pause, and I used the Hebrew word Selah, because if you ever take time to go through the book of Psalms, there's a lot of Selah in there. That means pause and reflect. Take a moment, an intentional moment, and just sit back and relax and look and evaluate. It's an opportunity for you to really self-examine. Okay, what have I added onto my plate? Do I have a corner here? Or what is there anything on my plate that I can delegate to somebody else that's not feeling burnt out? They're sitting there looking at you like, ha, ha, I see you doing all of that, but you're not asking for help. Look, before you drown, take a pause, look at it, look at the situation and say, you know what? Somebody else can do this. I don't have to do this. Delegate. I love the image of this beer. That's why I used it, because it just was refreshing to me. Is it all? Now this is refreshing, and sometimes in my mind, that's that bubble bath. We have to pause and then refresh and restore. Get your energy back, get your strength back, re-examine, reevaluate, and take a look and see, what can I do for myself? There are often times where if I go in the bathroom, my husband or my son knows not to knock on the door. If I start lighting candles, if I start turning the lights out, they know if I start running bath water, leave me alone. And this ain't for everybody. Leave me alone for 2 to 3 hours. Yes, I'm going to be in there and I'm going to let water out and I'm going to put some new water in. I'm going to let some water out and I'm going to put some new water in and add me some more bubbles. And I'm going to be in there and I'm going to mind my business and not bother them. So don't bother me. That's my refresh and restore. And then we have to look at the fact that we need to replenish. We need to replenish the things that have been sucked out of us, the things that we've allowed someone to take away, or whatever it may be. Refill something up again, restore to the former level or condition. Sometimes we don't ever make it back to that former, but the fact that you are pouring into yourself or someone else is pouring into you, you're making a conscious effort to replenish yourself. And that's the part where we have to get to, is actually make it a conscious decision that I'm stepping away. I just came back from a 2-week vacation. Well, 1 week vacation, and then a week of half working and half relaxing. So, but I was out of town. And when I finally made it back to my office, I was like, oh, I feel so good and refreshed. And now I can refocus. There are things that I had going on before I left that didn't have an importance to me anymore because I needed to check out. And so by doing so, I don't know how many of you got the invitation that Nicole sent out with a picture of me on there. That picture is actually of myself and well, I did take one with my husband, but that's in London. My husband and I had an opportunity right before COVID hit to do a trip over to London, Paris, and Rome. And that was one of the best vacations. Yeah, we've done Hawaii, but one of the best vacations that we've ever done. And so, but the chillness, there was no phone. I hate my husband's phone, y'all. Hope he's not on here because I did tell him I was on here. But, and he knows I hate his phone. I've threatened to throw it out the car window. But we had no phone. If we needed internet, we had access to it, but we didn't utilize it, so, but that was a time of refreshing, a time to replenish, from the work that we were doing at that time. And so I encourage everyone to take time for yourself, to evaluate, to see where you are and see what you can say yes to, how you can say yes to self-care and not feel guilty about it, which is where we're going next. I saw a couple of the picture of this cake that you see. I just got back from Mississippi, and it reminded me of the piece of red velvet cake. That on vacation, I don't watch any kind of weight. Don't tell me what I can and can't eat. It's a guilt-free situation for me. And that is exactly what it was. So I ate 2 pieces of red velvet cake back to back. The icing was just a little too sweet, but good. And I just had to add this in there. So guilt and stress do more damage to your body than chocolate cake will ever will. And so that just spoke to me because I had just had that experience. But a lot of times we can judge ourselves and be so hard on ourselves when it's not necessary. It really is not. Do not feel guilty for being tired after a long day. There's nothing wrong with wanting to pick up your book or zone out with the TV. No one gave our parents, I don't know if anybody is over 40 on here, but no one gave our parents guilt trips for not paying attention to us every minute of every day. In my generation, there were times that we went outside and our parents didn't know where we were, but we knew when those street lights came on, we needed to be back on that porch or in front of the house or in the house, and but that's my generation. I don't know how many hearts I might get on that, but they didn't have any issues back then. And they didn't go on no guilt trips because they didn't know where their kids were. That was an opportunity for them to do something in the house and not be bothered with children. I think this generation should go back to that and actually monitoring their kids. But don't judge me. Guilt isn't always a rational thing. Guilt is the weight that will crush you, whether you deserve it or not. This is a no guilt zone. Never let anyone, whether that's job, spouse, kids, or relatives, judge you for actually taking time for yourself. Make you feel guilty for taking care of your well-being. You get one opportunity at this life. And if that means that you have to let some people go because they constantly get down on you about various things, or just feeling like you're not the perfect person that they want you to be, there's nothing wrong with letting people go. Your well-being must take top priority. It's over. The time for us being the last on the list, you have to set time for yourself. Peace of mind is worth saying yes to. There's nothing wrong with letting people go. There's nothing wrong with not letting people guilt fault you or point the finger at you and say what you're not. No, you can simply say, yes, I am, you know who you are, and be proud of who you are. I am X, Y, and Z. I am worthy. I have a message that I keep on my desk that says, I am more than enough. And that I am more than enough has ... It doesn't matter what the situation is. I know that I'm more than enough, no matter what anybody says to me. Anybody. And I promise you, the confidence when you can pour into yourself that confidence that I'm more than enough. Now, granted, you got to be able to back that I'm more than enough up, which means that you've studied, which means that you've read a book. That means that you've taken time to do the investments that you need to do in yourself. And even if you're not complete, you haven't completed all of that, you have built yourself up and given yourself the confidence to know that you're going to complete it. You can do it. That's the beauty of building yourself up and being in a no guilt zone. Don't let anyone tear you down. The time that somebody starts tearing you down and trying to make you feel a certain type of way, that's the time. That is a relationship that you need to sever. That is a relationship that you should cut the cord on without hesitation. And there's no problem with that. Yes, everybody's going to always have something to say. But guess what? At the end of the day, when you lay your head on your pillow, how do you feel? All right, I got a little sidetracked. If something is beyond your wheelhouse, I spelled that all the way wrong. Please forgive me. Your wheelhouse and will stretch you thin. Say no without hesitation. There's nothing wrong with saying no. And we are already on to types of self-care. I believe that we also want to leave some time in case someone has some questions in the chats. This is just things that you can do. I did kind of take this picture from something that I saw online, but I thought that it was a beautiful picture that can be shared. So, and I have all my references on the at the very end of this. All right. So now we're back to those different types of self-care. That's that emotional, the mental health, the physical, the social, and spiritual. So what I want to give you here is things that you can do to help with those different self-cares. With the emotional time, take time for yourself and relax. Do activities that you enjoy. You don't always have to do what somebody else enjoys. Let me also add this in there. Take time for yourself to be by yourself. A lot of times, people, and I'm gonna say we as people, we don't want to be loners. We don't want to be by ourselves. But I may be one of the few oddballs out there that I don't mind being by myself. I can put me on some little headphones, going to mind my own little business, listening to whatever music it is that I want to listen to. Most times it's gospel, but um, whatever it is that I want to listen to, I can sit on my little couch or my little round chair at my own self house and mind my own business. Also goes back to the sewing machine. But we have to also find the things that we enjoy and not have a problem with being by ourselves. And enjoy being by yourself. There's a joy of having some quiet time. Talk about your emotions with someone you trust. That should have been underlined, highlighted, and bolded. Someone you trust, not somebody that you can talk to, because there's in for me, I have two individuals that I can be completely, I'm gonna use it as the kids use it. I don't know if they still use it, but 100 with. I don't have to fake. I have a hard time faking anything. So, but keeping it real and being real with people is something that I just am. But there are also things that you can't share with everyone. And so having at least that one person or maybe two people. I have a friend that's been my friend since I was in the 8th grade. She's shared with me, I've shared with her. And then I also have I call her my god aunt because my mom didn't have any siblings, but she had two best friends. And one of them, she entreats me like a daughter and more like a sister. But yet and still, I have those two individuals. And I also have my husband, but there's some things that I can say to them that I can't say to him because he probably didn't get on my nerves. But anyway, know who you can trust. And saying no to activities that you don't want to do is okay. Say no to something that you don't want to do. If you don't want to go jump out the airplane, don't go jump out the airplane. Just as easy as that. You just stand on the ground and go with them. You can go with them, but stand on the ground and look at them. That's what I did. You want to go jump out of the airplane? Okay, I'm gonna go videotape it. How about that? You know, but with your emotional, you are therapists are your friend. You know, if you don't have a bestie or somebody that you can absolutely trust, therapists are a very good place to go. I recommend them. I have one myself. And I'm very grateful that I can go and say, now, do I sound, what does this really sound like? Or am I really seeing this the right way? Sometimes that's our conversation. And now I saw X, Y, and Z. Now, does that make sense? And my therapist, you know what, Kendra, it do. But if you think about it this way, that's the conversation. It should be a conversation. And mental health, self-care, some other ways that you can add to that, stimulating your mind through educational books or films. Somebody may want to sit and watch the History Channel. There's certain parts of the history I don't want to watch because it makes me angry. And then I have to go back and deal with my emotions. And then putting together puzzles. Somebody might want to sit at the table and do puzzles. You might want to do coloring. You might want to do drawing. Journaling is one of the things that I do. But reflecting on your thoughts and being kind to yourself for the choices that you've made. Sometimes at the end of the day, people deal with regrets. But even in dealing with that regret, be mindful that the choice that you made was in that moment. And could you have made a different decision? Yeah, but you made what you made at that time because it was necessary. And that's the way you felt in that moment. So never be too hard on yourself on the decisions that you make. Your physical health. Eat. Some people are not eating enough, and whether that's healthy food, whether that's junk food, put something in your body. If there is someone who needs a food resource, I have plenty. Some of the part of my program is a food resource. So making sure that you're eating, moving your body. They say at least 150 minutes per week. That I'll give the reference for that on another page. And get some rest. Don't be up all night until 2 a.m. and you still have to get up at 6. Get some rest. You need at least a minimum of 7 to 9 hours per night. And then do your regular annual physicals. And see your doctor if you have any major concerns, and practice good hygiene. I have discovered, since I've been doing this work, that some young ladies have not been taught proper hygiene. Going back and actually teaching young women how to actually take care of themselves is something that the older generation should be mindful of. Actually taking young ladies and teaching them how to take care of their body. I like I said, I discovered this by chance in working my program, that some young ladies have just simply not been taught. But having an opportunity to teach them was a beautiful occasion for me. So just be mindful that some of our younger generation that's coming up now, they're not being taught. And so just be kind enough, if you have one that's drawing close to you, to take an opportunity to teach them about some things. But your social, participating in social activities with friends, such as going to dinner, movies, yoga, or taking a walk together. In this day and time, the video chatting is, I think on my phone, I have Duo, because I have family members that are out in California, that are in St. Louis, that again, all the way down in Arkansas. I've got family all over the place. And so one of the ways that we stay connected, because we weren't able to do family reunions over the pandemic, is the video chatting, so being able to talk to people in that manner as well. Avoid interacting with negative people. That's a leech. That goes back to negative people to me. And this is just my philosophy. You don't have to take it on as yours, but I consider them to be a leech. Somebody that's constantly negative, I don't want it. I don't want you around me. I call them a negative Nancy. You can move along. I don't want you in my space, because negative will end up becoming you. And I believe in association bring about a simulation. If you're not putting out positive, I don't want it. So, and be okay with letting people go. My last one is spiritual self-care, meditating or praying, whatever it is that you do, take time for it. Practicing regular or mindfulness yoga, and attending religious services, whatever that may mean to you. Do what's necessary for you. And then in summary, I found some really cool things that the little it's the okay, I cannot think of this animal, but he is off of a children's movie and it just made me laugh. So please know I should have put on there that I love to laugh. But he said, "Come on in, inner peace." I don't have all day. And that just tickled me so much when I saw that. But don't forget to breathe. Oprah, that's by a saying by Oprah Winfrey. And it's important to take time for yourself and find clarity. And then the self-care rules that I will happily send it out to Nicole, and you can definitely utilize any of this information. But in summary, you and you alone can determine your self-care boundaries. Borders and coasts is what I actually put on there. You determine that. You determine who you let in your circle. You determine who you keep out. You may need to take a pause and examine your life, where you are and what you need. Ultimately, you have the power to change it. And then 2 takeaway quotes. One that was told to me by my supervisor, and then one that I just found that I thought was most precious. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, and that's including you. And then a fair measurement for life. Are you drowning and need help, or are you freely dancing? Only you can tell. And that's a quote that my boss gave to me on a couple of weeks ago. We have to really take in account our own lives, because again, we only get one, and it's important that we take care of ourselves in this life. I think I may have one more slide to share, and then I will give you back over to Nicole. Oh yeah, my Bernie Mac. I love me some Bernie Mac. So, but this is my thank you, and take care of yourselves. One of the things that Bernie Mac has said, and this is how you determine whether or not you want to be around negative people, okay? So you sat there and just told me everybody's personal business, and now you ask me how I'm doing? I'm fabulous, and yourself? So I hope that you have gained something or gleaned something from here. Feel free to ask Nicole. Nicole, I'll give it back over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Kindra. Thank you so much. Everyone, I have recently engaged with Kindra and the Diva Moms in a community circle. I may have mentioned that at the beginning of the presentation. And overwhelmingly, the women in that circle talked about Miss McGee sharing with them the importance of self-care. Some of them were new moms. Some of them had their families were growing. Some of them had some traumatic experiences previous. The mothers came from every walk of life. And I just thought, wow, one of the gleaning moments of that was like, what is she bringing to this space for these women to not only benefit from, but they were able to share it. And even in the time that we spent with them, they were able to share it and have that self-compassion and compassion for others. It was just really powerful. And I thought, let me ask Miss McGee, would she mind just coming? We are doing maternal mental health, but as practitioners and caregivers, we're not only taking care of people in our work life, we're taking people in our home life, we're taking care of people in the community. Some of us are doing advocacy work. And so I just thought it was apropos if we are going to continue this conversation around maternal mental health, but also mental health in general. Self-care is a critical piece of it, and that we can do more to explore that. And I believe that's what Ms. McGee was able to share with us today, is what ways can you explore how to care for yourself, how to offer yourself compassion, and not just at home, in the workplace. We should be able to do that with one another, to be able to recognize and see, oh, my colleague is having a tough day. I can wait to ask for that information. And so I'm going to stop. I wanted to say thank you, but are there any questions in the chat? I did see some comments previously that saying that it was a breath of fresh air, that this is what I needed to hear today. There's some thank yous. Carmela says, Kindra, I absolutely love your presentation. It was so real, 100. Thank you. We have Jeff saying thank you, as well as Karen. But does anyone have any questions? It can be regarding your self-care, or even you exploring self-care with those that you serve. And I think, let me just see if you're able to share it. You can share it in the chat, or I can also go through and allow, it's a small enough group. I can allow people to speak if you would like. So I'm just going through right now. And just some more thank yous. Jennifer saying, thanks so much, because sometimes you just need to hear it. I agree. We do need to hear it, and we also need to hear it from one another. Kindred says, this was a refresher for me. I have to remind myself to take care, self-care. I have to remind myself to practice what I preach. All right, Kendra, I don't see any questions. I'll leave the last comment for you.
Well, the only thing that I would add to it is to walk away, or let your takeaway be that I am going to do better. If we don't do anything else, commit to, in our own personal lives, to just do better. Because I recently suffered a loss from someone that was close to me, and they hadn't even reached 60, but yet and still, this gentleman, he lived his best life. And one of the things that he enjoyed doing was taking care of his cars. He always worked on his cars, and not to, please don't take that in a negative way, or damper on anything. The thing of it all is that he enjoyed life. He did his self-care. And what we just have to remember is that we get one chance. We get one chance to make ourselves better, to be able to enjoy this life, sometimes that that is a separation from people, you know, and not feeling bad about it. I have 5 brothers and I talk to 2 of them because 3 of them is a hot mess, you know, but at family gatherings, I love them. I see them when I see them, and then I make a V-line this way, you know, and sometimes that's just it. Until they get to the place where they want to do better for themselves, there's nothing that I or anybody else can do for them, you know, and that's the same thing with people. And one young lady told me, maybe a couple of years ago, that one person's crisis should not become an emergency for me, because they had plenty of time to prepare for whatever it is that they're dealing with. And so that's even in our regular lives. We have to remember that we get one opportunity to make our day better, to make it worse. But I choose to be on the positive side. So I don't know if any of that made sense, but know that I was glad to be here today, and hopefully we all got something out of it.
Kendra, there's one quick question. It says, there always seems to be more to do. How does one make decisions on the importance of asks from the world?
Is it really important? I mean, most stuff that comes our way, it's important to somebody else, you know, and you're gonna get to it when you get to it. I am a single ship sailing over here with one person guiding me. I do have a boss, but at the same time, everything that's in my plate is gonna get ate up at some point in time, you know. But I have to choose. You have to choose what's the most valuable and most important thing, because I'll choose a client over a boss deadline. You know, if my client has a need for some diapers, you know what? And my boss has a meeting set for us at 2:30, I'm gonna ask her to can you be here by 2:15 so I can still make this meeting? But if she shows up at 2:30, then I'm gonna still do what I gotta do for that client. You know, because that's where my bread comes from. So
Well, thank you so much, Kendra. Did someone try to unmute? I'm sorry, I want to. Did someone else try to unmute? Is that you, Jeff? Go
prioritize.
ahead.
I have nothing to say. Thank you. Nice
Okay,
job.
we
Thank
saw
you.
you.
That's
You're
okay.
welcome. Thank you, thank you. Yes, prioritizing and saying yes and saying no is really hard. Many of us are caregivers in a profession and are naturally social workers, and you do have to prioritize as best you can, and just know some days it will be no, or some days you're not going to be able to get to it, right? And that was that self-compassion that Kendra was saying, that some days you can't give it because you don't have it to give. And so I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. As Kendra said, I hope you got something out of this. If not for yourself, yourself was a priority, but also for others. But to really even take time this afternoon, I want to challenge everyone this afternoon to take 15 minutes for yourself. It's a beautiful day. It's super cool out. It's not so hot. If there's something you love to do, take a few moments today for yourself and take care of yourself. Again, we appreciate you. Thank you, Kindra, for sharing your bubbly personality, your goodwill, your real nature, and just really encouraging us to take better care of ourselves. And like I said, the women you serve, they said it all, and they were really grateful. And so I thank you for taking the time out today to be with us. Take care.
all right. Do something nice for yourself today.